Hey, what is going on, guys? This is SMEB Reviews, and it's time to take a look at the newest studio album from Andy Grammer, The Good Parts. Let's get to it. I'm one critic who actually will defend Andy Grammer. A lot of people do really hate him, but I do honestly think that he has some defining qualities, and I think that he actually has some talent. In Honey, I'm Good, a lot of people really dislike that song, but honestly, I think it had a lot of good qualities. It just had that happiness, and while overall just a ton of happiness in a song is not enough to save a song, it just was so innocent and so much fun that I think that it worked. It wouldn't work for every song, and obviously after a lot of time and a whole album it would have probably got old with a bunch of happiness, but for the single song, it was actually really good. And I do know a couple more of his songs. I honestly am not too well versed in Andy Grammer, but I did really enjoy the style he was taking. He honestly had a lot of defining qualities, and really, he was interesting to me. And I was really curious. I was actually excited for this album because I did actually enjoy what I've heard of him so far. And so when I got into this album, I expected something that kind of had that retro feel, little 60s, just that 60s pop that was just happy and fun and had a lot of those elements to it. But what we got was just a hip-hop infused pop album, not really much to talk about. Honestly, this will probably be a short review just because there's not much to talk about. It's a very bland and boring album. It doesn't have a lot to praise. It's very clean, very inoffensive for the most part, and there's just not much to talk about with it. I mean, the production is clean and has nothing wrong with it necessarily, but it doesn't do anything interesting. And when something is this well mixed and well produced, you're gonna see when things are off, you'll hear it. And it really does happen. In Civil War, Andy Grammer has these weird enunciations with his R's and really sounds it's a lot of those sounds when he sings them, and it really is hard to listen to, honestly, because everything is so clean and perfect that it stands out like a sore thumb. And when I say perfect, that's not saying that this is the perfect album or anything. It's just so pristine, I guess would be a better word. It's very pristine and does not have anything wrong with it, but it doesn't do anything interesting. It's very neutral. It's got these boring hip-hop beats, and while none of them are too over the top, and I don't think that that style really overtook his style, it really took away from that happiness and those pop sounds of the 60s influences that he was using. It takes away from that and tries to bring it more modern, which takes away from a lot of his style. It's really hard to get through. This album is extremely repetitive. One, just because it is a pop album, but I can handle that. I can handle repetitiveness in general. But every song seems to just go verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, and it gets really, really hard to listen to, especially when the chorus is just grating and not really that interesting. That's not to say that some of these are awful, but listening to the exact same thing over and over and over and over gets really hard to listen to. It has some it has some redeeming qualities that I actually do like. There are some good things. I do think that he has a decent sense of hook. He knows how to write a hook. He knows how to write a good melody, and I want to praise that. But the problem is that while these songs are catchy, they're also incessantly grating, and just repeat over and over. They don't do anything interesting, and that's just another problem to put into the nail of this coffin. I mean, yes, I am saying bad things about it, but the thing is, most of the bad things are that it just does nothing. It does nothing interesting, nothing innovative, and nothing to make me want to listen to it again. It's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but it's just not the best either. It's so bland and neutral. And when we get to it, I mean, honestly, there are some good things. And yes, when I came into this, I was expecting some corny or dorky lyrics, because that's kind of what he does. But even though I might have given it a little bit of a pass, I'm still not going to give it a full pass, because we do have these awful, awful lyrics. Take probably the worst track on the album, which I will slightly modify the title again, since I would like to try to keep these videos appropriate for everyone. So, Man-Child, honestly, that is an awful track. From the delayed when the chorus comes in just slightly delayed, from his screech on Child, just the overall concept of it. It sounds like it's supposed to be a parody, but then he says how mature he is. It really is the worst track on the album, and unfortunately, it was the first track I heard, except for the lead-off single. Not, I typically will listen to the album like start to finish, but this one time I had pushed shuffle before, and then I remembered and went back. But I just pressed shuffle, and of course this one came on, and it's awful. It really is, and that is the worst song. But the thing is, we also have a really good song with 85. I honestly think it has a really catchy hook, a really strong melody, and I think that Andy Grammer sounds actually really good on it. Some of these songs he doesn't sound bad, but maybe not good, but I think that this song really works well for his voice and his style. It's really fun, and it probably is the best track. I've mentioned 2 tracks, and that's all I can mention. I mean, I did mention Civil War with his weird enunciations, but for the most part, I can't really say much about the rest, which I hate to do because obviously I want to do this as a review, but it's just so neutral and so bland and so lifeless. It's not offensive by any means. I'm not offended by any of this, but it's just so lifeless that I can't talk about it. It really is just the most boring project I've probably listened to all year. I said similar things about Taylor Swift's album, but honestly, this is so much more bland. Her album had a lot of bland songs, but at least a lot that I could talk about, either being horrible or really good. I at least had about 6 in there that I could talk about. I don't in this. I really don't, because so much of it just has no depth and no interesting things about it. And honestly, because it is so bland, normally I would give something like this more of a 5 out of 10 rating, but it's just so incredibly bland. And while 85 is a good track, that is it. Manchild is extremely awful. If we were balancing them, Manchild takes it down much more than 85 gives it credit. It's just, there's so much nothing on this album. It was a good attempt, and honestly, like I said, I actually had a lot of hope for this album, but he's just lost it. All that charm and that charisma that I liked about him from his other work is just gone, and honestly, I'm uninterested in this album, and in general, I want to defend it. I want to say it's good because he's someone that I have defended, and as a critic, I'm not in the majority there, but I do actually like him, but I can't defend this album because it is just so bland and boring and nothing. So that's why I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. What did you guys think of this album? Please let me know down in the description, or any videos that you want me to do of upcoming albums or anything. We are kind of getting in a little rough period of not a lot of album coming out. I'm planning on doing some different kind of videos, not just album reviews, so be looking out for that. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later.